know something? I don't know why I do the things I do. I'm a damn mystery to me.
You're right. Can't cut corners on this one. Whatever. Doesn't matter, man. I just can't go with you.
You know, I may be the one walking away. You're the one that's leaving. Again.
The Walking Dead is finally going to meet its end with its final season on the way, and while many fans aren't ready for it, I'm actually excited for it to be over. This show has overstayed its welcome after a certain amount of time it's been on AMC, and although I am a huge fan of the show and I'll always love it since it revived the zombie genre, it's been on for way too long, and the show just isn't as good as it used to be. While there are going to be some spin-offs from what I keep hearing and a possible movie starring Rick Grimes, today's video isn't going to be talking about those subject matters. Instead, like the series suggests, we're going to be discussing one heroic moment, and that character involved with this episode today is going to be Merle Dixon, the older brother of a beloved fan favorite, Daryl Dixon. Merle goes on this journey of being one of the worst characters in Season 1 to a standout superhero, at least in my eyes. A character that goes from being this big piece of shit to a misunderstood person. Today, we'll be discussing Merle's sacrifice. We're introduced to Merle Dixon as this vile, racist, disgusting, degenerate being in the first ever season of the show. Now, do any of you guys remember Season 1? Does anyone remember how simple the show used to be back before it was all just about walkers? When Frank Darabont was the showrunner, when he was the creator of the show, made the show feel so special and cool? The good old days when it was just so simple, but that's another topic for another day. Merle Dixon is just one of many survivors in Atlanta, but instead of being a character you want to root for, you want to see him die for the actions and choices that he makes. Even though he is the older brother of Daryl, he's honestly the worst out of the fucking two. Merle Dixon serves as an antagonist during the show's first season and proves to be a gigantic threat to the group as he keeps exposing them to the walkers. He exposes the group's survival thanks to just being an idiot on the roof with a sniper rifle, just mowing down at walkers, wasting ammo, and just creating attention that they don't want. If it wasn't for characters like T-Dog or Rick, the group would have really never made it out of Atlanta because T-Dog tries taking a stand, but it proves useless as Merle ends up overpowering him and beats the crap out of him. Rick gets his ass handed to him as well, but he manages to beat up Merle. And if it wasn't for Rick, they wouldn't have actually stopped Merle from being an idiot, and they wouldn't have stopped him from creating more attention. They handcuff Merle to the roof and decide to leave him there once the walkers are coming. T-Dog, being the bigger man, tries to help out Merle by giving him the keys to the handcuff, but ends up slipping, trips, and falls. The key to free Merle is dropped, falling down a pipe. And now Merle is just stuck up on the roof with nothing. Merle makes the toughest decision yet, but it's one that we don't get to see.
It's Sonny Christ, boy! I ain't begged you before. I ain't gonna start begging now. I ain't gonna beg you now. Don't you worry about me begging you ever. I'll never beg you. I ain't gonna beg you. I never begged you before. Ah! Ah!
We're left wondering as to whether or not he lived or died. So a search party is formed by his brother Daryl, Rick, Glenn, and T-Dog, but it proves to be a failure since all they can find is his hand. Even though I want to discuss Season 2, Merle isn't exactly there. Those are just pure hallucinations that Daryl has of him. It isn't until, however, right around the corner of Season 3, where our good old pal Merle comes back for us.
How's about a big hug for your old pal Merle?
Season 3 is possibly my favorite season out of the entire show since it proves to be the best one in my eyes, thanks to it exploring characters as good as it can. Season 3 is the season that made Merle Dixon the best standout character of the entire show. It cemented him, it immortalized him in the sense. Here we're shown Merle as being one of the governor's right-hand man cronies. You think at first that the governor's gonna be this good guy, but through it all, you see him through his faults. You see him as being this asshole. This is also more evident thanks to him wanting characters like Michonne dead. So Merle ends up forming a groups that he normally makes to scavenge supplies, but this time, they're out trying to find where Michonne is because the governor doesn't want any defectors from Woodbury. This is the utopia to be at in the sense. The search party, much like his, proved useless and it leads to multiple men dying. Merle makes the most questionable decision yet though, since he ends up killing off his own last soldier and goes back to Woodbury, saying that he couldn't get her and that she was too much. Lying through his teeth, he somehow survives. But he did this to save his own ass, but you also wonder as to why he would let Michonne live. Season 3 explores him, like I said, to his best, but also his worst, and Merle, still being Merle, does the worst actions possible. He kidnaps characters like Glenn and Maggie, takes them back to Woodbury, where they're both tortured and screwed over by the governor. But this is also where it leads to the governor's downfall. If it wasn't for Glenn would have never told Merle that Daryl is still out there, still alive. Merle informs the governor about this because he wants to be with his brother again, but this ends up leading to the governor's downfall later on. What exactly made him one of the best standout characters in this show? It wasn't just Michael Rooker immortalizing the character, making him feel special, but it was also the writing, thanks to the great writers during the early seasons of this show. Once he saw how vile, corrupt, and sadistic the governor was, he became one of the key factors in Woodbury's downfall. After having to save his brother because of the decisions the governor would make, having to force them to fight to the death with one another, Merle was just done with his shit and ends up fighting back. Even though we don't get to see him fight the governor just yet, we get one cool moment with both brothers fighting off walkers.
You really think this asshole's gonna let you go? Just follow my lead, little brother. We're getting out of this.
And if it wasn't for the likes of Rick and the others making it to them, they wouldn't have survived. But before we could even go back to the prison, Merle decides that he wants to go out in the apocalypse, not with Rick and the others. Daryl ends up tagging along because that's the only family he has left and tells Rick about it, which leaves them a bit sad, but they understand. Daryl tags along with Merle, but both brothers are very polar opposites with one another and don't get along. Merle keeps pushing and shoving Daryl aside, and Daryl does the exact same thing because he's trying to understand him, but they just keep pissing off one another, and it leads to a heartbreaking scene.
Man, I went back for you. You weren't there. I didn't cut off your hand, neither. You did that. Way before they locked you up on that roof. Who left who then?
What? Huh? Is that why I lost my hand?
You lost your hand because you're a simple-minded piece of shit.
Yeah, you don't know.
I didn't know he was...
Yeah, he did. He did the same to you. That's why you left first.
I had to, man. I would have killed him otherwise.
After Merle shoves Daryl aside and rips off his shirt, he sees the scars from their past, the scars from their abusive father. It's a heartbreaking scene, and it's one that you would never expect because Merle ends up shedding a tear.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter, man. I just can't go with you.
You know, I may be the one walking away. You're the one that's leaving. Again.
Out of all characters shedding a tear, this guy that was the biggest piece of shit during season 1 actually has a heart. And it's cool to see. It's beautiful to even witness because he has a heart, and it's what season 3 does right. It explores his character to the best, and we get to see another scene that's even cooler. We witness Daryl being a hero, trying to save a family off a bridge, and Merle decides not to help out. He knows that it's a bad idea. It's just both of them. If one of them gets hurt, they're done. Merle ends up helping out regardless, and because of that, they save the family and manage to make their way back to the prison. But once at the prison, the show decides to take it up a notch. The show decides to explore his character even more by having one-on-one interactions with the likes of Herschel, Rick, and even Michonne. When Merle gets to talk with Herschel, the interaction that both of them have is just pretty amazing. They're both similar in the sense that they have almost the exact same lives, but very, very different. Whereas they find out that they're both similar in the sense that they are abusive alcoholics. They try to change for the better, and Herschel knows that he could try to save Merle because he knows that Merle is just a flawed human being. Everyone has their faults, and he tries to help him. And one of the things that I always think about if Merle didn't inevitably die in season 3 is, if he lived, would he really have changed? Because he did respect Herschel out of every other character in the show, and Herschel does have all this philosophy and wisdom. Maybe Merle could have changed to be a better character, a better brother, and a better human being. But there's another interaction that also shows Merle trying to be good, but also trying to expose another survivor that we all know and love for being an even bigger piece of shit.
If we give the governor Michonne, Woodbury stands down. I don't like it, but it's what needs to be done. We need to make it quiet. We need your help with that.
Before any of you guys go off in the comments and say that this isn't a democracy, this is a dictatorship, just hear me out, okay? I love Rick Grimes. That's one of my favorite characters from the show, but Rick was kind of an asshole during season 3. If any of you guys don't remember, he tries to negotiate with the governor for a good reason, but even then, you shouldn't negotiate with a character like the governor. During their discussion, Rick makes it known to Merle that he wants him to give the governor what he wants, that being Michonne, and they keep it under wraps with their inner circle in a sense. Merle tells him that the governor isn't even gonna stop even after he gets what he wants. He's gonna torture her, he isn't just gonna kill her, he's gonna give her the old eye for an eye treatment, then possibly come back to the prison and kill everyone here regardless. Merle makes it known to Rick that he doesn't have a spine and that what he's doing, or what he's making Merle do, is just even worse than what Merle would do, even worse than what any other villain in the show would do. Because what Rick is doing is not having a spine, not standing up in the face of injustice, not trying to save everyone. Even though Merle is an asshole, he knows that this is even more fucked up than anything he would want to do.
Give him that girl. He ain't gonna kill her, you know. He's just gonna do things to her. Probably take out one of her eyes. Both of them, most likely. You'd let that happen for a shot. Whew. You're cold as ice, Officer Friendly.
Merle does the gig, kidnaps Michonne, and drives off with her to the governor. Or so we thought. Instead of getting his hands dirty and making yet another mistake, Merle shows a sense of humanity and lets her go. Michonne, being confused, asks why. Merle goes back and mentions that Rick doesn't have a spine or what it takes to really take someone like the governor down. While Rick is this good leader, you can't negotiate with people like the governor, as it'll just lead to chaos, destruction, and death. Merle lets her go and he drives off. After he drives off, he manages to find just where exactly the governor is and ends up sneak attacking them. And this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. This is Merle's sacrifice. After finding out just where exactly the governor and his men are, he ends up sneak attacking them, like I stated, catching them by surprise, by hiding in one of the mills and pins them down there, thanks to walkers approaching their AO. Merle is on a warpath, making sure the walkers get their lunch since
Meat's back on the menu, boys!
one by one, the governor's men start to become human Happy Meals as the walkers outnumber them. But lucky for them, they find out just exactly who's causing all of this, since walkers are attracted to sound. A few of them spot exactly where Merle is holding himself up and attack him from behind. Merle manages to hold himself off against these two walkers, but then two of the governor's cronies storm in and just start assaulting Merle. They prove to be too much. The governor storms in and yells at them.
You're leaving to me!
And he starts to viciously attack Merle. The two of them go at it like it's Rock and Stone Cold at WrestleMania. You know who to cheer for, but you know inevitably who's gonna lose in this fight, even though deep down you don't want it to. And it leads to just a terrifying scene to witness, one reminiscent of Smeagol biting off Frodo's fingers. It's a brutal scene just overall, and it's something you don't want to watch. It's a train wreck. Sadly, Merle is outgunned and outmanned. The governor wins this fight dirty like he's MJF, winning dirty in nearly all of his matches. Merle yells at the governor in a scene similar to Rorschach yelling at Dr. Manhattan to just do it, and this moment hits.
I ain't gonna beg. I ain't begging you.
No.
Why does it hurt? Why do we feel bad for Merle? Why should we cry for a character like him? Shouldn't we be happy that he's finally dead? Wasn't he the worst character early on in the show? Didn't he get Glenn and Maggie captured to the point that the governor did horrendous things to them? Why the fuck should we as the fans have any sympathy or empathy for a character like Merle Dixon? Because he was a flawed character who found the light at the end of the tunnel. Merle Dixon went from being easily the worst character to potentially one of the best standout heroes in Season 3. Merle was human, and the writers showed that you can love him even through all of his faults. And it also helped that Michael Rooker delivered such a solid performance to get the fans crying and invested to this beautiful, depressing scene. Moments after watching the governor murder off Season 3's best survivor, we have to see this happen all over again, but this time through the eyes of his brother Daryl. Daryl goes searching for Merle again and ends up where the shootout occurred, but he's far too late. Daryl finds Merle, or what was at least left of his brother, as now he's an undead flesh eater. He watches him devour one of the governor's formal men, and it's just haunting to watch. This used to be Daryl's big brother. He used to be, like him, human, but now he's just another mindless walker. What helped the scene more were the emotions that both Norman Reedus and Merle gave during this beautiful scene. His emotions ran rampant. The tears and everything just hit at once. Daryl, after searching for his brother again, only to lose what was left of his family, was just heartbreaking to watch. What was even more distressing, what was even more depressing, was having to witness Daryl put his brother out of his misery. Thanks to both Norman and Michael, this scene will forever be one of my favorite moments of The Walking Dead. Merle Dixon may have been the world's worst human being, but it goes to show that people can change even during the apocalypse. God, man, I miss episodes like this. I really miss the early episodes of The Walking Dead. The early seasons were potentially The Walking Dead's best ever. Nothing will ever top the early episodes, the early seasons compared to the later seasons of the show. The Walking Dead will forever be one of my favorite shows that revived the zombie genre, and although it's not as good as it used to be, it always delivered. It was something that you wanted to watch with your family, with your friends, and it was something you would look forward to, and we're never gonna have anything like that again. The writing and directing as well as the acting early on made the show feel extremely special. I'll probably end up rewatching the show again and end up breaking my heart having to see my favorite characters die off again and again, but only just so that I can finish the show and get to the last season. I know it's not going to be the best, or at least I think it might not be the best final season, but I really hope that they give a really good send-off to the characters and make it the best finale possible. Because at least we as the fans deserve something good in all the bad shit that the writers gave us later on. Even though The Walking Dead is shit, I'm hoping that this finale is worth it and something good to watch. This was one heroic moment, Merle's sacrifice. And this has been That Guy Frankie, yours truly.